everyone. Happy Labor Day. You are all hopefully relaxing, and I am at work. I am happy to be here, though, because we are going to talk about some fun books today. I'm AnnaLee Dragon, the director of the Kinderhook Memorial Library, and today I'm going to talk about a subject that don't get turned off right away. I'm going to talk about social sciences in nonfiction, which sounds maybe not like the most interesting subject that I've ever discussed, but I'm going to prove you wrong on that. We have a lot of really great books that I think talk about human behavior and relationships. And as I've said before, a great book is a great book. And so they make the nonfiction as interesting as fiction would be. So don't think I'm looking away from you or ignoring you when I look down. I just have notes and books here. So I don't have all of them, but again, I will put the covers at the end. So if there's anything that you're interested in picking up, you'll have the information you need. So the first book I wanted to talk about is called Tribe by Sebastian Junger. You may recognize his name. He wrote A Perfect Storm. So he is a reporter. And so he's written on a number of different subjects. This book called Tribe on Homecoming and Belonging by Sebastian Junger came out a few years ago, I guess 4 years ago in 2016. I loved it. It is about how human beings function in a society and how we group together and find strength in those things. But he also really talks about some interesting things, particularly regarding our soldiers and our armed forces and PTSD and the difficult things they go through. But what was really interesting is how he talks about the way that human minds work and the way we function as a group means that a lot of times tragedies and upsets are things that we remember fondly, sometimes more fondly than happy things, because it does bring out the best in humanity and it brings us together as a group and we work together. And think about post 9/11 and the amount of kind of love for humanity and for each other that we had in that period. And it doesn't last forever with an incident like that. So you just want to, let people remember it very strongly and fondly because they remember the good feelings that they got from supporting each other in a way that when we're just living our day-to-day lives, we don't see all the time. So fascinating book, Tribe by Sebastian Junger, highly recommend. The next book I wanted to cover is another author that you will undoubtedly have heard of, Malcolm Gladwell. It's called Talking to Strangers. It is what we should know about the people we don't know. And this is a newer book. This came out this year or late last year. And it is about how our interactions with strangers can go wrong really quickly, and why that is and what we can do to keep that from happening, which is super important. He does discuss one of his main case studies in this book. If you've read any of his books, this is what he does. He does like case studies he takes an abstract concept and then he does case studies about it to make it more relatable and understandable. So one of his main case studies in this is about a police stop that went wrong and had tragic consequences. But how maybe that if we learn to interact with people we didn't know better and change kind of our assumptions and our presets in our mind, that these things could go very differently and be much more positive. I found it really interesting to kind of check some of my own biases and my own interactions with people I don't know. I work with the public in a public building, and so I am frequently dealing with people who I've never met before. And I found this book really informative and made me think a lot about how I go about those interactions and what I can do to make them more positive for everybody involved. So I've loved all of his books, but this one I really enjoyed, and I think made me think about, in the current climate that we're living in, how we interact with people we don't know and we don't understand is really important to the outcome of the situation. So if you're interested in knowing more about that, Talking to Strangers by Malcolm Gladwell. The next book is brand new, so I have not read this one yet. I'm going to do an unboxing soon. We're getting more books, but this one just came in a tiny little shipment, and I wanted to include it because I think it blends with our theme here today. So it's called Big Friendship, How We Keep Each Other Close by Amina Tao Sao and Anne Friedman, who are friends. They are hosts of a podcast called Call Your Girlfriend. And they have a great picture of them on the back cover. They are clearly a big friendship. And so they wrote this book, and it's all about what it takes to stay friends for the long haul, because oftentimes in our life, we have friends that are for a season, for a period of time. Either relationships change, where we live changes, work changes, things that then bring about a lessening of closeness. And so this book talks about kind of the things it really takes to make a friendship last. And it does take effort, just like any relationship that we have. But I think this is also a celebration of friendships, lifelong kind of friendships, which we all treasure. I have a few of those, and they mean a lot to you. They really enrich your life in a number of ways. And so I'm really interested to read this one. I'm processing it today, so it will be in the catalog, and you can certainly borrow it. And then we can discuss once I've read it, because I'm eager to read Big Friendship. Okay, then I wanted to talk about one that I don't have physically here, but is in our system. It's called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. So Chris Voss was an FBI hostage negotiator. And he wrote this book about negotiation tactics. But if you start to think, well, what do I need FBI hostage negotiation tactics for? His point is that negotiation tactics are useful in all things in life, from buying a car to dealing with bosses to our spouses and significant others. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a hostage situation for those things to come in useful. I know I really appreciated this book, and I listened to it in audio. I liked the book because women traditionally studies have shown that they do worse in negotiations. Like they end up not getting as much as they could have. And that's true. They pay more for cars. They don't get as big raises. And a lot of that has to do with the way that we socialize women in our culture, which is that we feel like it's rude to kind of push back or negotiate. And we're wanting to please people and make everyone comfortable. And you kind of have to let go of that to really negotiate to the best effect. So I thought it was really interesting as a woman to read this, and I definitely learned some tactics that I will be employing in my private life, including the next time I have to buy a car, because I know that was one for me that I'm sure I could have gotten a better deal if I had known how to negotiate. So if you are looking for any aspect of your life, you're looking to negotiate a raise, you're looking to buy a car, you're looking to make a point to somebody in your life, and you're wanting to know how to do that and how the human psyche works, this book is excellent for that. And who better to learn from than somebody who used it at such high stakes, right? Like our stakes otherwise are fairly minimal. And so if he can employ these things successfully in such a serious situation, I'm sure that we could all employ them when the stakes are a little lower, but still important to us, right? So learning a new skill is always helpful, and the social sciences section of the library is great for that. So the next book is another one I don't have, and then we'll get back to a couple that are sitting here. I don't have in front of me this book called We Should All Be Feminists. And you will probably recognize the author's name. Her name is Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. She is Nigerian. She has written a number of books. This is a shorter book, and it is about a series of vignettes from her life growing up in Nigeria. And, you know, there are some social, cultural differences there, but feminism exists. Feminism and kind of sexism exists across the world in different formats, right? And her point in this is that we should all be feminists because all feminism means is treating everyone equally. And that she really gets into how gender roles limit us and kind of hurt everyone. They don't just hurt women. It's not great when we limit any member of society, and it doesn't work out as well for us either. We're better off empowering each other and recognizing each other's value across the board instead of sticking to traditional gender roles. And I think coming from an African culture, she brings a lot of insight to that, but it's also completely applicable here because bias and against genders and the idea of gender roles exists heavily throughout our society. So it's not just in another country that this would be true. It's very true here. And she has a beautiful lyrical way of writing. She's very poetic. I found her very empowering, and she has a way of putting things that just makes sense. So if you kind of are one of the people who, you know, feminism is sort of like a 4-letter word to a lot of people for some reason. And I think that that's because it's misconstrued or misunderstood. And so this book really kind of lays out what feminism is and why we should all be on board with it, because it just makes sense and it's better for all of us when we're all treated equally. So I loved that book. And then I would say the next one on my list is a really interesting one. So it's called The Wander Society by Carrie Smith. She discovered this Wander Society, which is a real deal, and you'll read all about it in the book. And the idea is, so the definition of wander, it says to walk, explore, amble in an unplanned or aimless way with a complete openness to the unknown. That's awesome. So I picked this book up and read it, and it talks a lot about just the secret group and what the Wander Society and what it is, but also kind of the benefits of wandering, which is something that we tend to, I think, grasp heavily as children and then lose as we become adults. The idea of just walking out your front door and walking without any pre-plan or destination or chore, and how you can train yourself to wander in a more peaceful way where you are open to the things around you and you're noticing things and you're paying attention to detail, and the freedom that comes with it, the exploration that comes with it. I became obsessed with it, and I bought a copy for my brother and sent it to him because this is very much up his alley. But there's a literary tie-in with Walt Whitman. I just highly recommend it. It's a different book, and it espouses just sort of a way of being that, you know, especially if you're into mindfulness, if you read Buddhism, if you're into mindfulness practice and meditation, you might really find this interesting, because walking meditation is a thing, and I would argue that wandering is similar to walking meditation. So I loved the Wander Society, and the book is here and at several libraries in the system. So, and this is one I wouldn't read, I don't think, on an ebook. I think you need the physical book. She's got some neat clips and pictures and things in it, and it's a tactile thing. I would want the actual book for this one. So we have that one. And the last one I'm going to talk about today, I know I'm running a little long here, is Modern Romance by Aziz Ansari, who is a comedian. He was on Parks and Rec, and he does stand-up comedy. He has been doing a bit for a long time about love in the modern age of apps and technology, and what that looks like and why it is the way it is. And so he actually did a study, a sociology study with New York University sociologist Eric Kleinenberg, who has written a great book about libraries called Palaces for the People. But this book is all about modern romance, and they did an actual study, and it's funny because he's a comedian, but the research is real. I kind of thought it was going to be more of a gag, but it's not, because he's involved with an actual sociologist. They did scientific research on these things, and I know, as somebody who has dated in the digital age, this was a breath of fresh air, because you feel like you're being gaslit sometimes, that these things are just happening to you, and they're not. It's a social interaction at this point that is a certain way because of the technology involved. So if you're wanting to understand more about it, you hear people talk about it and you don't know what they mean by dating in the digital age and the apps and all of that, this book is really good. It has a sense of humor and a lightness, but also has some real sociological research, which I appreciate. I like to see some facts with my entertainment. So Modern Romance by Aziz Ansari, excellent read. So those are my sociology books for this week, my kind of humanities, social sciences. I hope that you find some of them interesting. I hope there's at least one you want to give a chance, because they're all excellent books and good reads. You won't get bogged down in them. They're page turners. So try those out, and we will be back soon with, I'm not sure what's coming next week, but it may be an unboxing, or it may be some other things that I have in the queue waiting. So I hope you're all having a lovely Labor Day. I hope you all get some time off to rest and relax and be around your family. We miss you tons. We're looking forward to seeing you at the library. Use curbside pickup. We have a newsletter in print coming out at the end of the month. Check that out, and check our website and Facebook for updates. Okay? I'll talk to you soon.